more orgasms, the better. And I mean, I think it's really important to recognize, like you said, having this vision of where we're going, you know. And in the past, I had a real like, you know, I had to come to terms with the fact that I had probably raped myself or allowed my partners to rape me repeatedly. You
Mm,
know, it's like, oh, like how many times have I had sex that I was only half into or only half willing to be participant in? It's like probably in the thousands, to be honest.
yeah.
And coming to terms with that and being like, wow, like,
Mm,
okay, so that's the old me made those decisions. What does the new me want? What does the future me want? The
mm,
future me wants to know herself as a woman who can ask for what she needs. The future me wants to know herself as a woman who can open to pleasure instead of starting to cry right now. The future me wants to know that she can let go of crying really quickly and move back into pleasure, doesn't need to stay stuck in that. The future me makes love like a wild banshee and doesn't feel ashamed of it. You know, the future me um, it feels anchored in pleasure more often than in pain. You know, all of these sort of like gentle moments. And you know, in this journey, like especially in this last 2 years of being in this like really beautiful supportive relationship where I really didn't feel worthy of it when I started, and I had to work my worthiness up to like actually being with this being, with being with this human. You're like, oh gosh, like okay, finally, like 8 months in, I'm like, okay, I deserve to be here, and I'm not feeling judgmental towards him or me anymore, and I worked my butt off to get here, you know. As somebody who's come through several abusive relationships, it's like it's a big, big, big journey.
mm,
And I think that, you know, a huge part of that is learning how to communicate, learning how to say, ooh, that feels tender. Can we back up a little bit? Or just, ooh, that feels tender. Or we'll use like green as a question, like green, like, are you good? I'm good. Are you good? You know, just to confirm that. And it's like, oh, maybe that comes back as a yellow. Let's slow down a little bit. Or just like, whoop, you know, being able to say, I'm not going to totally wreck intimacy and destroy my relationship by saying, hey, I need you to not be inside of me right now because I'm experiencing a lot of pain in my cervix. I just need space to know that
yeah.
it's not going to happen again in the next 10 seconds because you're thrusting again. Like I just need you out so that I can like actually calm my whole nervous system down. And, you know, I'm a big advocate for the 30-day sex challenge or the 7-day whatever sexual thing you want to try challenge. And I did a podcast on that recently if people want to get more information on that particular beautiful experience. Um, but it's like being willing to show up is a huge piece. Like I don't even know how many days in this relationship I was like, I don't really feel like having sex today, but I want to know myself as a woman who enjoys intimacy. And so I'm willing to show up and I'm willing to communicate about exactly how much I'm not ready for this right now and sort of massage it, ask for what I need until I get into that place where, oh, like 15 minutes later, I'm like, yeah, I'm happy I did this journey, you know, oh, I'm here. This is a good place, you know. It
Often,
really takes work. Like,
often desire like comes after some kind of, first of all, just deeply relaxing, and then, you know, starting with gentle arousal, then maybe desire will come on. But there are many ways to have sex and explore intimacy without having penetrative sex. And it's funny what you said. It was actually just last night my partner said to me, you know, like you don't have, like, because I also noticed this very old ancient conditioning in me about like about you know being sexually available. And
oh my
sometimes,
God, yes.
and I definitely feel this kind of old guilt coming up. And my partner actually said to me, he was like, you know, you I know that you know this, but I don't need to have sex with you. Like, you know, if that's not where you're at, if you're feeling tender, or if it's not actually what you're wanting, it doesn't impact me at all. I don't care. I just want to be here with you. And it was just funny to clock
Mm,
old guilt about, like, you know, because I actually, you know, was not feeling sexually available for about a month, or I had some pain happening, and, you know, I was like frustrated with my body, but also knowing not to be frustrated with my body. Like, you know, knowing that I had to love my body and just really respect my body. But there was this part of myself that was feeling really frustrated. And I think this is the part that is like wanting to be better, wanting to be different, wanting to be pleasing. And this is super ancient, you know, it's locked in our history that women have had to,
Yeah.
our value came from, you know, pleasing the husband so that we would have a roof over our head and so that we would be supported, you know, and like our value was in reproduction. So, you know, those very old stories kind of locked in our DNA somewhere, you know, through our grandmothers. And, you know, I think I have learned about my edges by crossing my boundaries. That's the only way that I've really learned about my boundaries. And I can still do it. I can still actually sometimes get so in the moment that I'm just kind of go along with it because I'm kind of there's a part of me having a lot of fun. And then there's a little voice saying, no, this is going to hurt. This is not what you're wanting. But there's a whole bigger part of me that's just like, yeah, just go for it. Oh my God, this is so much fun. And look how sexy he is. And you know, he's having such a good time. And I'm just like, it's only, you know, it's like, and, you know, it's like, it doesn't happen very often anymore, but it has happened, you know, and I just kind of, I have a very, you know, I teach this stuff. So like it's important for me to share that I definitely I'm not perfect with this. And I use the times when I do end up I use the time when I end up crossing my boundaries as a way as just another place where I can like get back into integrity and be like, oh yeah, okay, this happened, you know, and I don't want to do that anymore. And I have a very understanding partner. So yeah, it's a funny thing, like getting lost in the moment and sort of just kind of sort of overriding and then also creating the vision of yourself, which is a beautiful way to put it. Like I actually think that was a part of this whole thing, is like stepping into the vision of myself. And I definitely, you know, the hard lessons were what caused me to step further and further into the vision of myself. Like no longer could I put up with, you know, dudes just wanting to masturbate inside of me, essentially, you know, like, oh, like, you know, I just no longer could I deal with a man who didn't know how to feel through his own skin and who just really had this goal in mind. Like, you know, it's a very real experience.
No more.
No more. Yeah. And like that took a lot of courage, because you go like in the dating world and you're on Tinder or whatever the app is, and you're meeting up with random people, and I have this whole education and a whole body of knowledge behind me about how I want to approach sex. And it's not like I'm just going to jump in bed with you and like see how it goes and hope for the best. It's like, hey, you know, we're going to play Betty Martin's 3-minute game and like learn about how to touch each other. And I remember when I first started doing that, I felt so vulnerable, and I'd say to the guy, I'd be like, hey, you know, I know this is probably might be a little bit weird and I feel a little vulnerable sharing this, but you know, I think ultimately it would be great because it helps us communicate with each other. And at the same time, it kind of gave me information, like, is this person willing to listen? Is he willing to explore? Can he be vulnerable? It was really important to assess these people before just like opening my body completely in the end, because I just caused myself so much damage, you know. And it's amazing. Absolutely. You know, when this becomes a practice and an intention and a way of life and a vision, it's amazing who you start calling in to your experience. You know, you Absolutely. Actually, that blows my mind. Like, it was like suddenly those guys just weren't anywhere near me anymore. And then, you know, this current man I'm with and then the person before him, they were just very beautiful sexual partners, very considerate, very giving and loving.
Yeah.
There's so much more for you over in the Joygasmic Life membership. Become a bulletproof mom with us. Learn the tips and tricks and skills you need to recover from your postpartum mental health journey, and learn the tools of Joygasmic alchemy so you can have the kind of birth you've been dreaming of.